Hey guys, it's Christy and welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me. Today we're going to be talking about the very best palettes for fall. So before we get into it, I hope you'll consider subscribing to my channel before you leave. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy, and let's get into it. Okay, so I have pulled what I think are a good mix of palettes, both old and new. There are some that are no longer available, but if you have them, this is your sign to dig them out and play with them again. So let's just get right into it. The first one I pulled is a newer palette, and this is the Mini Bronze from Natasha Denona. I love bronzes, oranges, coppers for the fall, and I do think that bronze is a really nice way to get those really warm toned looks. I just think this is so beautiful and fall-like in my mind. I just think this is really, really pretty, especially if you really love mattes, because this has 4 mattes and 1 shimmer, and the shimmer is beautiful. So I really do think this is such a beautiful fall option. And then I also, in that same vein, wanted to recommend the Midi Bronze. This one is the bigger sister to the last one, but this is also very, very pretty. I will say a lot of the looks created with this palette do tend to look similar, but it's still a very beautiful palette, and with this one you do get those darker shades as well. So if you're more into that, I think you would really like this one. I do think this gives me a lot of the fall vibes. This was released in the summer, and it's definitely a summer themed palette, but for me, I just feel very fall when I dig this one out, so I had to mention this one. And a palette that I do not believe is available anymore is the Metropolis from Natasha Denona. So this one is fall in a palette. I feel like I'm gonna leave this one out and just play with it for a little while. So you do get some really beautiful bronzes, some golds, you get some blues and greens and oranges, you get some really nice neutrals as well. This is just the perfect palette for fall. I love this one so much. If you have this one, dig it out, play with it, create some looks. I love this one, and she's got a really great mix of her mattes, her shimmers, and her cream to powders. If you're a big fan of that formula, there is a lot of them in here as well. I love this palette. I think it's so beautiful. I would love to see this come back as a permanent, or to see her even release another one like this. I am a big fan of her midi size because I think that's the best bang for your buck when it comes to Natasha. But this palette is the same price as her her full-size Biba, and you get obviously a lot more shades. So I would like to see a little bit more of this format. And one last palette from Natasha before we move on. I wanted to suggest the retro palette. So if you don't want to just go for those bronzes and golds, grab this one. These dusty pinks and mauves are so perfect for fall. They lean cool tone, but they're so flattering and so easy to wear, and they just give you that little something extra, something a little different. And this palette is so easy to work with. It's so beautiful. You can get somewhat of a brown look with this one as well. I just love this one. It's so beautiful. It's definitely one of my favorite Natasha palettes. Let's talk about some ABH palettes. So an older one that, if you have this one, dig it out. This is the Sultry palette. This one is such a favorite. I have no idea why they did not make this one a permanent in their collection. I believe this came out for holiday 2018, maybe 2019, but I thought it was 2018. And then I think for 2020, they released a limited collection for holiday. So that is when I managed to get my hands on this. But this was such a popular palette, and people still love on this one, and cool tones are a much bigger deal now than they were when this palette was first released. So this is a great time to dig out this palette, these cool tones, but also just some of these a little more gold leaning shades here. So beautiful. And I honestly wish, I know they've redone their formula and redone their format of their palettes a little bit. Just come out with this again with the new formula, and I think it would be perfect, because their new formula has a little bit less kick up than the brand is known for, and the formula is excellent. But this one is just such a classic and such a favorite for the fall. The next palette from ABH was one they came out with last year, and this is the Primrose palette. So this one was sort of like their first comeback palette, I guess. I don't think they received great reception for these two blushes that were in there, so I think they kind of made that a very limited thing. But the packaging on this is beautiful. But what I love about this are these coppery bronzy tones in here. You do get some pinks, but then you get these deep berried purples, which I love for the fall. I love them for the fall. When I first saw this palette, I thought that's kind of a little bit more spring in my opinion, but the longer I've had it, I didn't reach for this in the spring once. So that tells me that I very much see this as a fall palette. I'm very excited to reach for it a lot more. I'm really excited about these berry tones, and even these here I think are just really, really beautiful. So I would definitely recommend breaking this one out if you have it. But of course, I also had to recommend their newest palette, which is the Nouveau palette. I've been loving this one. So this one is, aside from that pop of purple, this one has some greens, a more orangey tone in here, but just these deeper, grungier colors that I think are so good for fall. And then Wings is this beautiful green silver shift. It's gorgeous. I love this for fall. I think this is the perfect palette to break out for these cooler fall months. I would highly, highly recommend this one. The formula in this is better than even their old formula, and their old formula was good. This is better. And the format is easier to work with. I just think this is a really great palette for this. And quickly, for more affordable options, I know that I've gone very high end with my recommendations, but that is because I really do tend to stick with more higher end eyeshadows. But I do have two affordable palettes before I move on to the final two high end palettes. But I wanted to recommend the ColourPop The Child palette. First of all, it's adorable, but I really feel like these greens are so perfect for fall. I really do. I love green eyeshadow. I love it in the fall especially. Plus you get this little pop of gold over here. I think this is a really, really beautiful little palette. It's so cute and so affordable if you're wanting to branch into greens but you don't want to spend a ton because it's just not a shade you use that much. Grab this one because it is so affordable and it's really great quality. And also from ColourPop, I wanted to suggest the Making Mauves palette. I love this one. This one is, I would say, if you're wanting the Natasha Denona retro but you just don't want to spend that price point, this is a great alternative. Obviously it's not a dupe. This is more strictly mauve, whereas retro kind of has more shade range, but this is so, so, so beautiful. This is such an easy to work with mauve palette, and mauves again look so beautiful in the fall. I think they're such a nice little touch. I just love that. I think this is beautiful. The shimmers in here are gorgeous. I highly recommend this one. And the one palette I wanted to recommend from Urban Decay is also one that I recommend in the springtime, but it's also perfect for fall. But I wanted to mention the Naked Honey palette. So I recommend this in the spring because it kind of reminds me of sunshine, but at the same time, those honey tones and those bronzier shades, definitely more fall. Love this so much. This is a perfect neutral palette. I still love this one. This one's a classic. This one has been around for a long time, but it's so, so, so beautiful. So I would highly recommend this one from Urban Decay. And if you're looking for a very high-end option, I would recommend the Pat McGrath Bronze Seduction palette. So obviously bronzes, but this palette also has this deeper purple to work with, which I love for the fall. And then you get this red kind of a shimmer, which just adds a little something extra. And I think all of these shades just work really, really well to create a beautiful neutral look, but very glam if you want it to. So I think this palette is beautiful. It's definitely darker, a little more grungy, so perfect for fall. I do think this is a beautiful palette. I don't think you need to run out and spend full price on it. I think if you already have it, now's the time to dig it out. Or if they're having a sale, maybe you want to pick this one up. I do think it's beautiful, but I think all of the others that I mentioned are beautiful as well. I just wanted to mention this one as well because I do think it is beautiful. Those are my fall palette recommendations. These are the ones I'm going to be reaching for a lot this year, as well as testing the new holiday releases that are coming out, which I am so excited about. That is it for me today. Let me know down below your favorite fall palettes. I am so excited for fall. I love fall so much. But thank you so very much for watching. If you're new here, I hope you'll consider subscribing before you go. I do upload at least 3 new videos every single week. And that is it for me today. Thank you again so very much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!